Hello, in this video we're going to be going over the RingCentral user portal, and we're going to be taking a look at your profile settings and your incoming call settings and the different ways and scenarios that you might set this up. So to get started, in any modern web browser you're going to want to go to www.ringcentral.com, and in the upper right hand corner of that page you'll have a login button. Clicking the login button will take you to the login page, which we've already logged in here. And by default, it will take you to the overview page. The overview page has two main sections. The recent messages section, where you can see your recent voicemails and faxes and text messages. And your recent calls section, where you can view your recently placed, missed, and received calls, who they were to, who they're from, when, at what time, and how long the call lasted. The Messages tab and the Call Log tab work kind of the same way as the Overview tab, in which they show you your recent messages and calls. The Contacts tab is where you can go to look up phone numbers in the company, as well as adding phone numbers to your personal phone book. The Settings tab is where you're going to do most of the customization of your profile. So we'll go through each one of these options from top to bottom, and then we'll go over some individual scenarios on how you might set up your profile. So we'll start off with the User Details tab. If you're ever unsure of what any of these tabs do, or what the options are that you have, over here on the right hand side of the page you have the video tutorials, and these are actually pretty helpful videos created by RingCentral. Simply click on the video icon and it pops up a YouTube window, and you can watch the video directly there. On this page is where you kind of define who you are, and you can change your name, record your username, which will be spoken to callers in certain scenarios, change your email address, and update your department. So for example, if my first name was misspelled by the administrator, I can go in here and change it. And just click on Save. And as you can see, it changed the name of my user, and it also changed the name of my user up here. We'll click on Record Username and show you how that works. So, by default, it'll use the RingCentral text-to-speech name, which basically is the computer's best attempt to pronounce your name. In order to record your message, or in order to record your name, simply click the red record button down here, and it gives you a few options. We can record over the phone by telling it to call us at a certain number. We can record using the computer microphone, which does require Adobe Flash to be installed on your computer. Or, if we already have a sound file with our name spoken in it, we can upload it here. Now, it's important to note that you won't be able to edit it after you upload it, so you have to do all of your editing before you upload. So, for this video, I'll demonstrate using the computer microphone. So we go here, we click Allow to allow the Flash application to record our microphone. Click the record button. RingCentral Lab 2. And click Stop. And once we've done that, we can click Play to listen to the message. RingCentral Lab 2. And if we're happy with the results, we can click Save. Now, whenever the system uses the recorded username. That's what people will hear. The user password feature is useful if you're already logged in and you want to go ahead and change your password. This is where you're going to do it. So to do that, you just simply type in your current password and then type in the password that you would like it to be changed to, following this criteria, of course, and confirm your password. You can also do the same thing with your PIN and security question. You can do them all one at a time or any combination of the three. I'll cancel out of this for now. And I'll show you the regional settings. The regional settings are pretty much set and forget. You have your time zone, which doesn't change very often, whether or not you prefer the 12-hour format or the 24-hour format, and your home country code, and the greetings language. I haven't done a lot of testing with the greetings language, so I can't speak too much about it, so I'm going to ignore that for now. The next tab underneath the User Details tab is the Phones and Numbers. And this is where you can go to configure presence. Presence is a feature that interacts with your desk phones so that the extensions that you list here are also on your desk phone and they take place of your line keys. As you can see here, we already have the lab IP6000 in my presence. And if I wanted to add another user, we just type it in here, select it, and click Done. If you would like to see how it would look on your phone, click on Preview on My Phones. Since the only phone that we have associated with this account is the desktop app, this is the only view that we have, but this is pretty much how to look when we get to the desktop app and we're looking at the HUD on that app. There are a couple options down here. We can have the phone ring whenever somebody else's phone rings. So for instance, if somebody was calling RC Lab 1 and I want to know whenever his phone rang, I could have this button checked. And whenever his phone rang, mine would too. And there's another one here that says enable me to pick up a monitored line on hold. Now there's a caveat to this. You can definitely enable it. However, it's not going to work unless the user that you are trying to answer specifically gives you permissions to do that. And the way that they can give you permissions is by going over here into the permissions tab on this same page. So the way that this text is laid out can be a little misleading. Most people only see the allow other users to see my presence status. You can select this on or off. A lot of times they think that by adding people from the left to the right, we're giving them permissions to view our presence status, and that's not the case. What's really going on here is we're selecting users to answer our calls. So, since we're logged in as RingCentral Lab 2, if we wanted to give RingCentral Lab 1 permissions to answer our calls, we'd simply select his name here, click the right arrow, move him over to the right-hand column, and click Save. Whenever you change your presence, this actually changes the configuration of your desk phone. And the way that your phone changes its configuration is that it has to reboot. It doesn't necessarily, no, actually they changed it, so it does now tell you that your phone will reboot in order to make the change. So when you click OK, your desk phone should automatically restart. If it doesn't restart, you won't have the new changes until you manually restart your phone. Directly below Phones Numbers, we have the Screening, Greeting, and Hold Music tab. And on this tab, we have some options to control what people hear when they call you. Here at Retail Data, we're not going to be changing any of those because those are set by your administrator, and we get kind of grumpy if you change them on us. So we're going to go down to the bottom, or directly below the Screening, Greeting, and Hold Music tab, Call Handling and Forwarding. Directly below the screening, viewing, and hold music tab, we have the call handling and forwarding. And this is the page that I like to call the meat and potatoes of what you can do as far as configuring RingCentral. And this tab controls how calls get routed to you and um, how they're handled and processed in the RingCentral system. Um, since I'm on a lab account and I don't have any spare desk phones, I've just created a fake desk phone here, and I've created a fake mobile phone here. Um, so by default, a lot of you see the desk phone and it has the active, and there's nothing underneath of it. If you wanted to add a phone, you can either type in your phone number here for one of your home, mobile, or work phone numbers, or if you wanted to call it something a little different, click this Add Phone button at the bottom and give it a name. And then type in the number. And then click Save. So by default, everyone's call routing will be set to sequentially. And what this means is that it'll try it in number or in ordered format. So when somebody calls my RingCentral number, it'll ring my desk phone for 20 seconds. And if there's no answer there, it'll ring my mobile phone for 20 seconds. And if there's no answer there, it'll ring the third phone for 20 seconds. This can actually add up as you start adding devices, resulting in people waiting for you to answer the phone for a good minute. See, we have right here, we already have 60 seconds worth of waiting for somebody to answer the phone. Now, it really kind of depends on the device and how fast it can actually answer calls. The desk phones are really responsive to when you get a call, so I like to change those down to 15 seconds. But mobile phones, they're not so great. Sometimes there's a significant lag between when you dial a number and a mobile phone starts ringing. So I usually bump those up to 30 or 25 or 30 seconds. I prefer 30 seconds because I just prefer to be safe and sorry. And let's say this is a landline. Again, those are pretty responsive, not like cell phones at all. We can bump that down to 15 seconds as well. Another neat trick that we can do is this simultaneous option. And what that'll do is instead of going down the list and ringing each one individually, it'll ring them all at once. And it really kind of helps control the amount of time that people are waiting for you to answer a call. And we can even mix and match the two options by creating what we call a ring group. And to create a ring group, we just click this button here that says Create Ring Groups. And you're met with a page with all the phones that you have on this screen. So for instance, if I wanted my landline and my mobile phone to ring simultaneously, we'll click the boxes next to them and then click Group. And that kind of sets them to ring together at the same time. And then click Done. And so these two phones have basically been merged into one, and we can control them as if they were one phone. So I'll click Save for now. Now, let's say that you wanted your phones to ring a certain way while you're in the office, and maybe work a little bit different when you're out of the office. So the way that we can do that is we can click on the After Hours tab here. The one that I like to use is the forward calls. And what it does is it gives you kind of the same interface as you had before, and you can turn phones on and create ring groups, and you can even, this is completely separate configuration than the other page. So in the last instance, we wanted our mobile phone and our landline to ring at the same time. But maybe at this time, we'd like our desk phone and our landline to ring, and we don't want our mobile phone to ring at all. And that's what that would look like. Um, so we'll click Save. Now there's one more feature that I wanted to show you before we moved on to the next one, and that's Call Flip. And what Call Flip does is it gives you an option to bounce around between your phones. So, for example, if we're on a call on our desk phone and we realize we need to leave our desk, we can press *2 while we're in that call, and it'll start ringing your mobile phone. And when you answer that call, you'll continue that call on your mobile phone, and it'll hang up on your desk phone. Now, as a more advanced tip and trick, down here at the bottom, you also have incoming call information. And what this is useful for is if you ever use your mobile phone as part of RingCentral, you'll quickly notice that whenever you receive a call through RingCentral, it'll ask you to dial 1 to accept the call. And we can turn that off here in this play announcement before connecting setting. So right now, by default, it's for non-RingCentral phones only. And your mobile phone is not a RingCentral phone. So whenever you get that call, that's why the announcement plays. We can change that to never. Now there's really one important caveat to this, is that the reason why this setting is like this in the first place is that RingCentral has no real way to tell if it's you talking or if it's your voicemail talking, except for to ask you to dial 1. And since your voicemail is almost never going to dial 1 on your behalf, we can assume that if you don't dial 1, it was your voicemail. So what that means is when we click never, there's a high chance that calls meant for your company number might end up in your personal voicemail. And it might not be a good idea to have your clients hearing whatever you use for your personal voicemail. So for that, I definitely recommend keeping it the default. However, I understand that it can be really frustrating for some users, so I wanted to make sure that you knew how to change that. Moving on to the next section, we have the messages and notifications. And this is how you can control how RingCentral notifies you if you have a message, or even if you want to take voicemail messages. Right here, there's an option to whether or not you want to take voicemail messages, and there's an option to record your voicemail greeting. By default, your voicemail greeting will sound something like this.
Your call has been forwarded to the voicemail for no one is available to take your call. At the tone, please.
It's really generic and maybe not so great. So what we can do is we can click on Custom, and it's the same recording method as before. Hi, you've reached a voicemail for RingCentral Lab. Please leave a message after the beep. Hi, you've reached a voicemail for RingCentral Lab. Please leave a message after the beep. And that's that. There's also an option to change how it works after hours. So if you have a voicemail message, say we wanted to say, yes, we're in the office, or maybe, no, we're not in the office, and we'll give you a call back tomorrow. during normal business hours. Now, down here at the bottom is the notifications. This should be set up automatically like this by your administrator. However, if you don't like the way that it's behaving, you can definitely change it. So, by default, we have voicemail messages being emailed to you, and we're including an attachment with that email so you can listen to it directly from Outlook. And so that your phone isn't continuously blinking red telling you that you have unread messages, we have it marked that message as read once it's been emailed to you. And we repeat that configuration with faxes. This is so that you don't have to be bothered to go into the online portal every time that you have a voicemail or a fax. The outbound caller ID. Again, these have been set by a administrative template. However, based on your needs, you can change this. And we have the outbound fax settings. And basically what this page does, it does two things. The first one is it kind of configures our cover page. As you can see here, this cover page is really kind of blank because we haven't put anything in there yet. Matter of fact, this preview is always going to look like this, but if we were to send this cover page to an actual fax number, all these fields would be blank because all of the fields on our outbound fax settings are blank. So when you fill this out, it populates those fields in the cover page. The second thing that this page does is it allows you to enable the fax via email feature. So RingCentral has a feature to allow you to send faxes via email by sending an email to whatever the fax number is at rcfax.com. So for example, 8675309 at rcfax.com would send that a fax to 865 or 8675309. And there's some options that we can configure along with that. Well, really there's only one option. The omit cover page when email subject is blank. I always like to turn that on. There's no reason to really send a cover page if you don't need one. And the reason why it's worded that way is that whatever you put in the subject of your email, it's what's going to be in that notes setting or section right here on your cover page. So for example, if the subject was subject, under note, we'd have the word subject. Now, any of the text that you put in the body of the email gets completely ignored. So if you have an automatic signature, it says your name, your contact information, and your address and whatnot. That's not going to show up on the fax at all. The only thing that's going to show up is whatever files that you've actually attached to that email. So if you have a PDF document, it gets faxed. But the long-winded letter that you actually type out in the email gets completely ignored. So make sure you're aware of that. Now, to enable this feature, RingCentral needs to know where it should expect the email to come from. So type in your email address here, then click Add, then click Save, and you've enabled that feature. And that concludes the overview of the RingCentral portal settings that we can make. In another video, we'll go over these three buttons right over here, and it'll be a short video, I promise.